child, difficult relationships, your insecurities. And I don't know if you'll agree with this. What I was really struck was how important your work was.
Yeah.
It wasn't just work, that you found personal strength in the characters you played.
Well, he was who he was, and a man of his time, and needed the women that he was with to represent him in a certain way. And but would he have been different if I could have said, "Don't do that. I don't like it." But I couldn't.
Sally Field has been in Hollywood for over 6 decades, working with everyone from legends to newcomers, collecting 2 Oscars and countless other accolades along the way. With that much time in the industry, you're bound to cross paths with some people who rub you the wrong way. And Sally, despite her wholesome image, has never been one to fake relationships or pretend everything's perfect. She's been surprisingly candid about the people in her life who made things difficult, uncomfortable, or downright painful. In this video, we're looking at 5 people Sally Field did not like one bit, and then we'll end with someone who proved that Hollywood relationships can actually be wonderful.
Grandmother, of missed communication, of hurts and wounds that you never talk about so they never heal.
Number 5. Stephen Craig. Sally Field's first marriage feels like something that happened before she really knew who she was. She married Stephen Craig, her high school sweetheart, in 1968. She was only 21, already recognizable from Gidget and The Flying Nun, and juggling fame with the pressure to appear like she had it all together. At that point, marriage seemed like the next normal step. Stephen wasn't a bad guy. In fact, Sally never spoke badly about him. The issue wasn't about cruelty or betrayal. It was about timing and identity. She was just getting started in her career, right on the edge of breaking away from the cute girl sitcom roles and fighting to be seen as a serious actress. But being a wife at 21 came with its own set of expectations, ones that didn't leave much room for personal growth or ambition. Sally has said in interviews that she constantly felt torn. On one side, she wanted to be the devoted wife everyone expected. On the other hand, she had this fire in her to prove herself beyond the lighthearted shows that made her famous. That conflict wore her down. She said that staying married at that time would have meant giving up the version of herself she was trying so hard to find. The marriage lasted until 1975, and by then, Sally had matured into a woman, a mother, and an actress who knew what she wanted. She and Stephen had 2 sons together, Peter and Eli, both of whom she's extremely close to. Even though she looks back and calls the marriage a mistake, she doesn't regret what came from it. She said that ending it was painful, but freeing, a necessary step toward the person she eventually became. When she talks about that period now, there's no bitterness in her tone, just clarity. It's the kind of reflection that comes with age, realizing that some chapters are meant to end, not because they're terrible, but because they're holding you back from the life you're supposed to live. Number 4. Alan Griezmann. If marrying Stephen Craig taught Sally about getting married too young, her second marriage taught her about incompatibility. By the time Sally married producer Alan Griezmann in 1984, she was in a completely different phase of her life. She had already been through 1 marriage, had 2 sons, and was at the top of her career. She had just won her second Oscar for Places in the Heart, and professionally, she couldn't have been in a better place. On paper, marrying someone who worked in the same industry probably seemed like the right fit. He would understand the long hours, the creative drive, the constant reinvention. But in reality, it just didn't work that way. Sally has said that she and Alan were 2 very different people who wanted different things from life. It wasn't about big fights or scandals. It was more about a slow realization that their lives weren't blending the way they were supposed to. She's talked about how the relationship often left her feeling boxed in, as though she couldn't fully express herself without being criticized or misunderstood. Sally had already fought so hard to be taken seriously as an actress. She had gone from the bubbly energy of the flying nun to powerful roles in Norma Rae and Places in the Heart. So to be with someone who didn't seem to fully support that evolution must have been incredibly frustrating. The marriage lasted 10 years, and during that time, they had a son, Sam. Sally loves being a mother. She said it over and over. But she's also admitted that the marriage itself took a toll. The divorce in 1994 wasn't easy, especially with custody issues involved. She later said she felt like she wasted too much energy trying to fix something that was never really right to begin with. Still, she doesn't speak about Alan with anger. There's a sort of quiet acceptance when she reflects on that time. Like her first marriage, it taught her something. That love isn't just about shared interests or professional compatibility. It's about emotional freedom. And when that's missing, no amount of success can fill the gap. Number 3. Bob Rafelson. Working with director Bob Rafelson in the mid-70s was supposed to be a career opportunity for Sally. He was well known in Hollywood for directing 5 Easy Pieces, and the film they worked on together, Stay Hungry, had a promising cast, Jeff Bridges and a young Arnold Schwarzenegger. But behind the scenes, Sally's experience was anything but positive. She shared, both in interviews and in her memoir In Pieces, that Rafelson made her feel deeply uncomfortable. During the audition process and filming, she says his behavior crossed professional boundaries. It wasn't about creative differences. It was personal and invasive. This was long before the Me Too movement, a time when women in Hollywood were expected to tolerate inappropriate behavior if they wanted to keep working. Sally has been careful with her wording, probably to avoid legal backlash, but she's painted a clear enough picture. She described him as someone who used his power to make her feel small, who made comments or advances that left her feeling objectified instead of respected. For someone already battling to be taken seriously after years in sitcoms, that kind of treatment was especially disheartening. Even so, she powered through. She gave a strong performance in Stay Hungry, but she said that experience stuck with her for years. It wasn't just about one man's behavior. It was about the culture of silence in Hollywood at the time. Sally's honesty about Rafelson later became part of a bigger conversation about what women endure behind the scenes in the industry. What's striking about how she talks about it now is her calmness. She doesn't sound vengeful. She sounds like someone who's processed it, who understands that sharing her story helps others find their voice too.
Any child abuse, but sexual child abuse, I think one of the reasons it is, at least my point of view, it's so damaging is because it's so complicated.
Number 2. Jock Mahoney, stepfather. This is the darkest entry on this list, and it's a part of Sally's life that is hard to talk about, and even harder to imagine living through. Jock Mahoney, her stepfather, was a stuntman and actor who married her mother when Sally was young. From the outside, he looked like a tough, charming Hollywood guy. But behind closed doors, Sally says he was abusive. In her memoir, In Pieces, she opens up about the physical and emotional abuse she endured as a child. She describes how unpredictable his temper was, how the house often felt like a place of fear instead of safety. There were moments of conflict, manipulation, and silence that left deep scars. And maybe even harder than that was the feeling that her mother couldn't protect her. Sally has said that watching her mother stay with Jock, despite knowing what was happening, added another layer of pain. Writing about it years later took courage. Sally's not someone who shares for shock value. She's always been thoughtful about her words. When she talks about the abuse now, it's not to dwell on the past, but to show how trauma shapes you, often in ways you don't realize until much later. She's been open about therapy and how long it took to understand the effects of that kind of childhood. It impacted her relationships, her confidence, and even how she saw herself. But there's also strength in her story. Sally's life isn't defined by what happened. It's defined by her resilience. Jock Mahoney died in 1989, but Sally's healing journey didn't stop there. She's used her story to connect with others, to show that surviving something painful doesn't mean you have to stay broken. It's one of the most powerful parts of her memoir, honest, raw, but also full of hope. Number 1. Burt Reynolds. Sally Field's relationship with Burt Reynolds was the kind of Hollywood romance people love to talk about. They met on the set of Smokey and the Bandit in 1977, and the chemistry between them was undeniable, both on screen and off. For years they were the it couple, charming, glamorous, and seemingly inseparable. But behind the charm, things weren't as perfect as they looked. Sally has spoken openly about how controlling Burt could be. He wanted her to be a certain kind of woman, lighthearted, funny, and focused on him. But that wasn't who Sally was anymore. She was growing into serious dramatic roles, winning Oscars, and finding her voice as an artist. She said that Burt didn't handle that well. Her success made him uncomfortable. In her memoir, she talked about how she often felt like she had to shrink herself just to keep the peace. It wasn't that there wasn't love. It's just that love wasn't enough to make her stop being herself. She's described that time as confusing, filled with mixed emotions, affection, frustration, and an underlying sense that she was losing herself in the relationship. They broke up in the early 1980s, and although Burt later spoke fondly of her in interviews, Sally never sugarcoated the truth. When he passed away in 2018, she said kind things publicly, but also admitted that their time together wasn't healthy for her. She's called the breakup one of the best decisions she ever made, a turning point that allowed her to reclaim her independence. Their relationship became one of the most talked about chapters in her life, but for Sally, it was more than a headline. It was a lesson in self-respect. She learned that even when someone seems larger than life, you can't lose yourself trying to fit their world. After everything Sally Field went through, the bad marriages, the difficult men, the controlling directors, it's nice to end on something good. Because for all the complicated or painful relationships in her life, she's also had a few that remind you why people still love her so much. And one of the best examples is her bond with Julia Roberts. Sally and Julia first worked together on Steel Magnolias in 1989. Sally played Malin, the strong but loving mother to Julia's character Shelby. At the time, Sally was already a Hollywood veteran with 2 Oscars under her belt. She was respected, accomplished, and everyone knew she could hold her own in any scene. Julia, on the other hand, was just 21. Talented, yes, but still finding her place in the business. She'd just gotten attention for Mystic Pizza, and Steel Magnolias was her first major ensemble film. It wasn't an easy environment for a newcomer. The director, Herbert Ross, was known for being demanding, sometimes too demanding. Sally has described him in interviews as a real son of a bitch, especially toward Julia. He was critical, nitpicky, and harsh in ways that could break down a young actor's confidence. Julia was trying her best, but every time she turned around, Ross was pushing harder, telling her she wasn't good enough, or second-guessing her instincts. Sally saw what was happening right away. She'd been there before, the young actress in a room full of powerful men who didn't believe in her yet. She understood how it felt to be scared of making a mistake, to want to prove yourself, but not know how when someone keeps tearing you down. So instead of staying quiet, Sally decided to step in. She and the other women on set, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Olympia Dukakis, and Daryl Hannah, became Julia's support system. They didn't let Ross bully her without consequence. If he got too sharp, they'd step in, or they'd comfort Julia afterward. Sally, especially, took on a motherly role off screen, making sure Julia knew she wasn't alone. It was kind of poetic, really. Sally had spent years being treated unfairly by men who thought they knew better. From directors who tried to control her, to partners who wanted her to tone herself down, now she was the one in power, and she used it to protect someone instead of to dominate them. She made sure that the youngest member of the cast felt seen, valued, and safe. That protective energy didn't stop when the cameras did. After Steel Magnolias came out, the two stayed in touch. They've both spoken warmly about each other over the years. Julia has said that Sally's kindness and guidance during that film meant a lot to her, especially at a time when she was still learning how to navigate fame and the rough edges of Hollywood. And Sally has often talked about Julia with genuine affection, saying she's proud of the woman and actress Julia became. And, well, Julia did just fine for herself. She went on to become one of the biggest stars in the world. Pretty Woman, Erin Brockovich, My Best Friend's Wedding, the list goes on. She's won her own Oscar, built an enduring career, and proven that she's not just a movie star, but a serious actress with range. Of course, Julia's success is her own, but it's easy to see how Sally's presence at that pivotal moment helped. Having someone in your corner, especially someone who understands the game, can make all the difference. Sally saw herself in Julia, and she wasn't going to let another talented young woman get crushed by the system the way she almost was. That's really who Sally Field is when she cares about someone. She's protective, loyal, and quietly fierce. She's the type who uses her experience and reputation to make things a little easier for the next person coming up behind her. It's the total opposite of how she's sometimes been described: difficult, demanding, or too outspoken. What she really is someone who refuses to tolerate unfairness for herself or anyone else. So there you have it, 5 people. Sally Field did not like one bit, and one person who brought out the best in her. If you enjoyed this look at Sally Field's relationships, make sure to like and subscribe. What other Hollywood legends should we explore? Let us know in the comments below.